Hello, everyone. Okay, that one works. Wow, that's a big stage. I actually opened the first ECB many, many years ago, so it's amazing to see how it grew. I think it was just this room on the first one. But today I have a pleasure to host a fireside chat with Nanak, who is a co-founder of Holonym Foundation, and we'll be talking about privacy, which is a great passion of mine. I actually started off my career in computer science and security and privacy, so was very excited when Victoria asked if I could do this. So Nanak, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi, yeah, I'm Nanak. I'm a co-founder of Holonym Foundation. So I build a lot of privacy tech to bring privacy on-chain because, yeah, we feel that Web3 is at a crux of privacy, where in some ways it can help privacy, in some ways it can really hurt privacy. So just trying to make sure that people can have privacy when interacting with Web3 and bring the benefits of new cryptography. Yeah.
So you build for privacy, right? But why? Like, why do we even need privacy? I mean, every possible study says that people don't care. They are happy to sell their data. Best if you can get paid for your data. So why did you even start it, and why do you think it's worth doing?
Yeah, I actually used to be one of those people who thought, I have nothing to hide. There's no need for privacy. But it was only when I started developing apps that handled user data. Like I was developing an identity protocol for Web3, and was originally doxing users in many ways, and just the design choices as a developer, realizing how they could impact users is really what got me into privacy, seeing how we will gladly give away all sorts of data without seeing the risks always. Like, I think it can be, we are all incentivized, and myself too, I still hit the button saying, give away your cookies. Yeah, it's a very tough incentive problem, but preventing surveillance is super important. I think making sure that nobody has too much power, there should be checks and balances against that to make sure society doesn't go in a downward spiral, and to also protect data from breaches. Because, I mean, with, for example, Equifax breach in the US, 100 million people had their social security numbers leaked and, destroyed people's lives. So I think, yeah, it's an important societal problem.
Is there a way to make privacy usable? Because what you mentioned about cookies, I mean, I click it all the time, and every now and again I'm on a mission of exploring the settings and setting them slightly differently to make sure that it's only the essential ones. But 90% of the time, you just want to get on with it. So is there a way to do it better?
Yeah, I don't know, it's a tough question, right? Like, I think it's really convenient to not have privacy sometimes. There are steps we can take. There are tools like Tor, tools like, NIM, Hopper, all sorts of, mixed nets and tools to protect privacy that we can use. VPNs, right, as well. But yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of extra work.
And well, the title of this fireside chat is Web3 will change privacy as we know it. What's the Web3 component? How does it change anything?
Yeah, I think Web3 introduces a lot of interesting primitives that get rid of trust. And so it's funny because Web3 is often thought of as this very privacy-preserving space where you can make private transactions. But in reality, they are pseudonymous transactions rather than anonymous transactions. So in some ways, they provide privacy, but in other ways, if you know somebody's pseudonym, their address, you can know everything about them. So, I think there's a lot of interesting technology in the ZK space, which is associated with Web3, even though it's not necessarily like, purely Web3. I feel like zero-knowledge technology that powers blockchains like Monero, that powers blockchains like Zcash and Manta Network, and even other blockchains that are trusted execution environment based, I feel like there's some very interesting privacy primitives being introduced that can allow for privacy we haven't seen before. And even in regulatory compliance, like making sure that financial transactions can be done privately but still complying with regulations, I feel that's a very interesting way that Web3 can finally change privacy for the better.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Just out of curiosity, how many of you here know about ZK snarks or zero knowledge proofs in general? Okay, that's amazing. That means that we're getting somewhere. Basically, everybody does. If you don't, come talk to Nanak. He'll explain it to you afterwards. So you mentioned regulation. It is interesting because on one hand, let's say I want my privacy, forget the usability. I want my privacy. I don't want anything to be leaked. But on the other hand, I want support of the government, and I want, I'm a good citizen and I want to have my social benefits, depending on where you live. I want to be protected by law and all that stuff. That doesn't go together.
Yeah, it's a super tough challenge. And, if I may show a little bit, that is something that we are tackling right now at Holonym. And I think it's very important to have this crossroads because on one hand, I can see why regulators want this lack of privacy because you have to make sure, right? You can have a financial system that preserves privacy for normal people, but you want to make sure when somebody misuses it that they are caught. And having that in a privacy-preserving way is very tough, and it's something that we're trying to solve.
And how are you solving it?
Yeah, we're using zero-knowledge proofs and all sorts of like new cryptographic primitives like threshold encryption. Well, I guess that's not totally new, but all sorts of fancy crypto primitives like threshold encryption, zero-knowledge proofs.
And is the idea to adopt Holonym identity system kind of Web3 wide or worldwide? Are you working with any governments to get it like into the regulatory space?
That's something we're working on a little bit. So we're working with Lobby 3 DAO, which is a lobbying DAO ran by U.S. presidential candidate, sorry, Andrew Yang. So that's one exciting way that we're exploring confluences with government and regulation and lobbying.
You mentioned lobbying. How is there a push that you know of? Like, is there an industry body that fights for better regulation around privacy and Web3, some joint venture, or is it all very decentralized, dare I say?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. I think it's largely decentralized. I mean, EFF comes to mind. They have fought for privacy in many cases. You might know better than I do, probably.
Well, actually, it is a good question because all I hear about is individual companies having, issuing responses to different acts and so on. I don't really hear much about really organized movement towards better adoption of Web3 standards, especially around privacy. So if anybody else knows something, I would love to hear about that. What do you know, Charles?
So there's a little bit of work there's a lot of work on privacy in W3C, which is an interesting space because it's mostly dominated by Web2 people, but the privacy work and in particular the identifier work is actually looking very carefully at stuff that's Web3, either Web3 native or designed by people who build it on top of Web3. It's the way they think. The value of that conversation is that it involves both the traditional web players, it involves regulators and governments. W3C is well known so people pay attention. It involves therefore a lot of arguing and a lot of fighting to make progress, but the good thing is when you do make progress, you've made progress in the big ocean, not in your tiny fishbowl.
That's amazing. So in case you didn't hear, I'll just quickly repeat. W3C has a big initiative around privacy and bringing both Web 2 and Web 3 initiatives together, or worlds together, to solve that. And also, it takes a lot of time, but hopefully you have a greater impact there. Our time is up, unfortunately. That's what the big screen tells me. Nanak, any actions for everyone here? Like, what do we do about privacy in Web 3?
Yeah, I mean, be careful about where you're logged in with your wallet. Pretty crazy that if you have MetaMask or whatever wallet logged into any website, that they can find your wallet address. They can see every transaction you've ever done on the blockchain. So, and link it with your name or number, whatever other details you give the site. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things we accidentally miss with privacy. So yeah, if you're looking to preserve more privacy, then that's probably a good route.
So just don't talk to strangers, as usual. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.